What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we are rebuilding the Pittsburgh Pirates. I've gone ahead and simulated through the playoffs. Last we left off, our Pirates just missed out on a wild card spot, but ended up finishing the year 82-80, all around a big improvement over last season, and I think a lot better than we were initially projected to do. So, as you can see, the Dodgers run through the NL and end up taking the series against Kansas City in 6 games. So congrats to them and playoff MVP Freddie Freeman. If we actually look at their team, it's interesting. They're kind of, just the same Dodgers that we know today. Just they've brought up Alex Freeland and they signed Kyle Tucker. And then everyone else is pretty familiar. Not many changes on the pitching side either. Blake Snell in the bullpen along with Dustin May. So it looks like they were able to, just keep their core together. And the World Series stays in the NL this year. Atlanta had won it the previous season. So now we've seen the Yankees win in 2025, the Braves 2026, and the Dodgers here in 2027. But let's turn our attention to our Pirates. We have not simulated to the off-season start yet. I wanted to kind of review the stats of the team as a whole and sort of set your expectations, or at least kind of talk through how we're feeling about certain guys and how we may look to structure the team moving forward. We do have several players out on loan at the moment who are playing in the Fall League. If we go to this module here, you'll see everyone we kind of already selected. So, they're getting ABs over there, which I like. I think, Wyatt Sanford, he's only hitting 200. So, we'll see how everyone comes back from there. I don't think we'll include them in our stat review here. We're just kind of going to go through the major league guys and, see how everyone did. So let's start with the hitters, and I'll try to keep this brief. I know I always go super detailed with these, and they can kind of drag on, but Omar Alfonso is a good starting point. The lefty catcher who brings pretty good defense. I think, he has locked in a role with us next year. It kind of remains to be seen if it's a full-time role. I don't necessarily want him facing left-handed pitching, but it may more likely be a platoon role. I think we bring him back along with Endy, but you can see his slash line at the end of the year was really strong. He's not striking out a whole ton. The walks are there, and the OPS is there. So really encouraged by his season. And I think he'll be a big piece for us moving forward. And if we look at Endy, same thing. He ended up as a 600 OPS player, but 1.2 WAR. I think his defense is pretty good. He's really good at framing, and the bat is capable. He's got good gap power. He hit 22 doubles, so that's pretty good. He started off really slow for us, and then kind of came along in the back half. But you look at his numbers, or his ratings rather, against lefties, and you think I can sort of picture a platoon where Alfonso takes righties and Endy takes lefties, and I'm sort of thinking we bring him back. It'll be his first arbitration year, so it's not going to be tremendously expensive, and he's overall been a good player for us. If we had to start him again next season, I think I would be fine with it as well. So I think it's likely we bring back both of these guys. Spencer Horwitz had a big year. He led the NL in plate appearances and doubles with 43, only 7 homers and 55 RBI, but he stole a lot more bases this year, which was good. 15 steals is, I think, a career high for him. And, the strikeouts were maybe slightly elevated from his, year-over-year stats, but it's within margin of, what he normally does. A bit of a come down from his, tremendous 2026 where he had a 3.6 WAR. And he really just profiled as a 99 WRC plus hitter. So, there's a bit less slug, I suppose, fewer homers I'm seeing. He just was going crazy. He didn't play nearly as many games as he did this year. And, still a solid season though overall. Like we still really like him, and he is also entering his first arbitration year, so we're definitely going to bring him back. He's also very popular, I've learned, so he can hit both sides still. I see no issue in re-signing him, but it's kind of a common theme on our whole roster. We have guys jumping from that final year of league minimum up to their arbitration years, and we start to stack those up, and the budget is probably going to get a little bit tighter. But Isaac Paredes was our big trade line acquisition, and I took a peek ahead at the upcoming free agents, and he's like the best bat like on the market. He's going to be highly competitive, really well paid player this year at just 28 years old. He came in and had a 900 OPS for us. Was just tremendous down the stretch. So big year for him. If we were to look at what he wants right now, it's not egregious. It's mid-20s, which a team could do. A team that was maybe a little more willing to spend than we are could easily do this, and I think they would be very happy to bring him on. He's just a great hitter against left and right, but I think it's unlikely we bring him back. I just don't see it in the cards for us. I think this next season is maybe a bit of a reset for us. If I'm thinking big picture, I feel like we had a brief window this year where we could have gotten into the playoffs with our final season of Paul Skeens, and now with we're gonna trade him away probably later this episode, and I don't expect us to get win now pieces from that. I think we're going to look for more prospects in return. So, I think we're going to take a step back in terms of starting pitching, and the team might just be worse overall than we were last season. So, I think letting Paredes go is part of that vision, and then we're kind of just going to have to retool around all the guys that we can bring back. So, Nick Gonzalez here definitely had a major step back. He's the first year of the sim in 2025, he had a 3.4 WAR in just 82 games, and then he's regressed every year since then. Last year was more league average, and then this year, not so good again. The good part this year, he stayed healthy for the majority of the season. He played almost 150, and he developed a captain personality. So I think it's likely we bring him back, but I just don't know how he fits in exactly, because he's not a good defender. Negative 15 zone rating at second base is a big yikes. So I'm thinking we can either try training him at third. Potentially he's our third baseman, or I don't think he'll be good at third base, but it's less important than second base. So I would be fine with that, I guess. And then the other option is we just DH him because he is fragile, right? And we want to maintain his health. So things we'll have to consider with him. Brian Hayes, was actually a positive WAR player. He tripled his WAR year over year. So, we're looking for marginal wins with him. He hit, 243, slashing 2,236. Yeah, he's not very good still. And in a limited role, this is exclusively against lefty pitching, which he is slightly better at handling, but he's still not good, and we still have 2 more years of him. So I'm thinking if our owner is feeling generous and giving us a good budget, it's possible we just waive and DFA him and eat the 16 mil. I just don't want to carry him on the roster. I think it's just dead weight. I feel like we could be so much better off with other guys, and I'm just kind of over it. So we've handcuffed ourselves. There's no way we're going to trade him. We've handcuffed ourselves by keeping him on the roster. I still think it's a relative handcuff, having to pay his salary, but I just don't want him on the roster anymore. Termar ended up, cranking out 22 homers for us, 61 RBI, 6 steals. He was really good overall. He only faced righty pitching, which is his strong suit. But I think he came along fine at third base, and finished with a 1.1 WAR. It's to be determined if we end up moving him back to left field or if he stays at third base. I kind of want to move him to the outfield again, but he's still just on league minimum money, so a ton of room to grow. We are a little concerned with all of his lower body injuries. We may look to get him in the dev lab on like a strength and conditioning program because we still have him under control for so many years. I don't really want him to turn fragile either. And then Liover Peguero, he's kind of just settled into like who he is. His OPS this year was not good, 584. He really kind of fell off at the plate, but he is kind of saved by his base path action. 18 steals is pretty decent, but he's hitting just 220. Like the defense saves him from a WAR perspective. He got 21 doubles, I guess, but I think that's helped by our park factor. He's still a good shortstop for sure. 5.3 zone rating, above efficiency. So I would rather have him as the backup middle infield guy. At this stage, I would rather I think start Sanford at short and then Peguero is a backup up the middle guy. And he's entering his first year of ARB. I don't mind re-signing him for this because I do think he is a quality, shortstop defensively, and I like having that on the roster. So it's likely he returns in just a more limited role next season. And then Jacob Melton, we really had like sort of up and downs with him where, he started off really hot and then kind of tanked down the back half, but we'll be able to move him up and down at will next year. He still has 2 option years remaining. So I like his versatility as a defender. His slash line on the season as a whole, is a little underwhelming, but he ended up being a positive WAR player. I think a lot of that is from his base stealing, 12 steals, and his defense. He's got good arm, doesn't make many errors. So the bat's never going to wow, really. It, I guess, remains to be seen if he makes the opening day roster for us next season or not. But, happy that we stuck with him for the full year. I think it'll just be nice to have the flexibility that he can provide. And then we have Brian Reynolds here, who is first and foremost still under contract for $15 million for the next 3 seasons, so that's pretty rough. I would desperately love to move off of Brian Reynolds here, but he, let's just look at his stats. The counting stats are good, 21 doubles, 20 homers, 11 steals, only caught once, 74 RBI. He played a lot, 141 games, but we threw him out in the field and it was horrendous. It's a negative 0.6 WAR. The OPS, he started off really hot, if you can remember back that far, and down the stretch he just didn't do so well, plain and simple. And if you look at his ratings, he's becoming a liability against left-handed pitching, so that's not looking too good. He's more of a right-handed hitter, and even saying that's a stretch because he's just at kind of average. And then, like I mentioned, the fielding is horrendous. So look at his rating in left field, a negative 11 zone rating with negative 2.5 arm value. This is almost unplayable. This is Ronnie Simon level defense that we're seeing here. So basically we need to DH him next year and figure out something else in left field, which I'm hoping is going to be Termar. But Reynolds is likely done fielding for us. This next guy, Cedric Mullins, is interesting. He had a positive WAR season, 2.4 WAR, 23 steals. He's become a demon on the base path. Close to 20 homers, 70 RBI, 20 doubles. All of this is pretty good. The average is a little bit down year over year, but finished with a 705 OPS. And his fielding is tremendous in center field. 6.7 zone rating, positive efficiency. The arm's not really great, but he's just able to cover so much ground that it doesn't matter too much. The interesting thing with him is that he has an opt-out after this season, so I'll be curious to see what he chooses to do because, coming off of, 2 straight above replacement seasons, I think it's reasonable that he would look to opt out and sign one more big deal with another team that kind of carries him through his mid-30s. So we'll just have to see how he wants to play it. I'm secretly hoping that he does opt out, just because I've mentioned several times that we're so lefty heavy, and I just want to switch it up. I want to like shake things up with the team this year, and I would not mind moving off of Cedric Mullins. So if he chooses to opt in, all that to say is like we may even look to flip him for something in the off season. Because I still think he does have a fair bit of trade value, even though he, it would be a little detrimental to lose him. He's popular locally, but at this point, we're going to trade Paul Skeens, who's extremely popular, so like the losses are going to be immense on the popularity front. So we may as well just bottom out while we can. But that's sort of where I'm at with him. I do like him though, like all around, very good player for us. I'm happy we signed him. And then O'Neal Cruz, who only ended up playing 92 games for us this year, but in that time he hit 24 doubles, stole 14 bases, had 16 homers, and really cooled off down the stretch. At one point we had looked and he was hitting like 380 and OPSing 1,000, pretty deep into the season. I think it was like May or June possibly, but he finishes with a 3.7 WAR. I still like him a lot. And he's starting to get into the contract that we extended him on. So we're going to have him for the next good bit here. He's going to be around for at least the next 4 seasons. The injury history is unfortunate with him, like all of the stuff here. I think he's also another candidate similar to Termar, where since we're tied to him for the long term now, maybe we look to get him into a strength and conditioning program and kind of just boost his overall health pool a bit. But those are the hitters. I don't think there's anyone else really at AAA or on the 40 that we should touch on that maybe we didn't. I think Jack Brannigan still has his option years. He actually finished sort of respectably at the majors. 671 OPS, below average player, but I think it's likely he keeps being pushed up and down. Wilfredo Antunez we can look at. He's in the fall league currently. And it doesn't look like he's played much. He may just be a reserve, I don't know. But 35 games, he had 11 doubles, 6 homers, and 27 RBI, so 859 OPS for 140 WRC plus and 0.6 WAR. So I guess I was kind of sleeping on his ratings, but I think he's helped by not striking out and the gap power. That combination has served him really well, and he was quite the surprise for us this season. He still has 1 option year remaining, so he doesn't have to be on the major league team next year, but I'm going to try to find a way to fit him in, I think, just because maybe we'll see if he has first base versatility, so he could be a backup corner and backup first baseman. I don't know. We'll kind of see what's possible there. And then I guess we can also, we already pulled up Wyatt Sanford. He's not doing great through 18 games of the fall league, but in 19 games at the majors, he hit 260, stole a base, hit a couple doubles. This is not a tremendous stat line, but the one thing I do like with him is if we go to his fielding stats and see how he played shortstop at the majors, everything here is positive zone rating and efficiency. So I think we could bank on him being our shortstop moving forward, and eventually he could profile as sort of a leadoff hitter, although I think it's likely he'll be near the bottom of the order next season for us. But I think we'll leave the batters there. We can go into the pitching, I guess, for a bit. I'll try to be quick again. A lot of our woes down the stretch were due to the back end of our bullpen and kind of blowing games in those final 2 weeks there. But Paul Skeens, we'll start with the starters, right? Paul Skeens led the NL in innings. He was just a workhorse, and he led the NL in WAR. So it's, I guess possible that he could get another Cy Young award this season. We'll just have to see how it plays out, but you can see his demands are pretty inflated. Should we look to offer him a contract extension? He wants 20, 31, and then 50, basically for the next 10 years. for $450 million. We can't do that, obviously. So we're going to look to cash in on him. I still need to review what makes sense for trading him, but that's coming imminently. Jared Jones, started the most games in the NL, 34, and pitched almost 200 innings at, pretty solid stat lines around, all around. The FIP is just on average, so, maybe he got hit, the long ball got to him a little bit, but good at stranding runners. 17% strikeout minus walk isn't too bad, and he's much more affordable. So I think it's likely we do look to extend him, not on a deal at this level, but maybe through his age 30 season, buy out 2 of those free agent years. I think we could easily convince him on a deal like that. So after those guys, it's really kind of sketchy. We have one more year, 2028. We have one more year of Mitch Keller. And he's a beast from a stamina perspective, but he's not giving us much on the field. High ERA, FIP right on average, WHIP is high, homer is, I guess, fine, but hitters are hitting 275 on him, and he's not really striking guys out at a huge clip, and his left on base percentage isn't great. So I don't feel good about him being if I'm projecting ahead, I would rather him be our 3 or 4 starter. I don't like him being our 2 starter, which he's currently, projected to be behind Jared Jones. So we may look to add a new starting pitcher just out on sort of a discount from Paul Skeens, because I would like to go Jared Jones and then ideally have somebody we feel good about in the 2 spot, and then we kind of fill out the rest from there. But I do think it's likely Johan Oviedo comes back, because I'm looking at his season, and it was pretty good, 3.4 ERA, the WHIP at 1.18. The FIP is slightly high, but, it's fine. He was striking out a lot of guys, 10 K per 9, so hitters hitting under 200. He really thrived in the bullpen, and the bullpen salary is sort of reflected in his arbitration demand. So for just $3 million, I think it would make sense to bring him back as another this same swingman type of role, where he's maybe long relief or can start a game here and there. So I do think it's likely Oviedo returns for us, and then same for Burrows as well. He didn't wow us with his once we moved him to a starting role, but the FIP is just pretty high and the homers are there. So I'm hoping maybe he can settle in more as a full-time starter, but I just kind of view him as the 5 and dive. And I want to bring him back, obviously, because he's extremely popular. He's as popular as Paul Skeens for some reason. And he's entering his first arbitration year, so it should be pretty cheap, just $1.2 million to bring him back. But, he's either 5 and dive or long relief probably. And then on a similar note, Thomas Harrington is back here too as well. Not arbitration eligible, so definitely on the minimum. His season was really not too great, 5 and 12 from a win-loss perspective. He's not walking guys, which is good. He's got the 55 control, but the homers are there. He's kind of getting hit up a bit, but 16 strikeout minus walk, I guess, isn't too bad. It's just I don't know if he's going to progress this offseason or just kind of stay the same guy. So we'll just have to see if anything changes with him. The good news is he is very adaptable, so we can push him into the bullpen, I think, and he won't mind. But it's possible he is also just our 5 and dive guy as well. So TBD on kind of him, Burrows, and Oviedo, how they all kind of fit in. But I think it's likely they're all back. Other guys here, Brian Abreu as closer ended up with 28 saves, and he only blew 3. So after sort of a rocky start to the year, he was okay. Although I'm looking at this ERA and WHIP, and it's oof, it's kind of tough. The walks are definitely there, but the strikeouts are as well. It's just I don't know that we've seen the best of Brian Abreu just yet. I think he kind of came along in the summer months, but the spring he was not so good. But we still have him for one more year on just a $5 million deal, and he's still pretty young. The service time isn't getting up there, I look forward to having him. I think he'll come back as closer and be fine. And Yoldin De La Paz, the surprise of the season in terms of pitching, 34 games, 2.32 ERA, 1.31 WHIP. The WHIP is a little bit high, I guess, but the FIP is low. Not giving up the homer. He was really good. I think it's likely he returns in a middle reliever role. You like that he's good both sides. So on the minimum, we'll take that. Matt Brash, control dip down to 40, which I don't love. We once valued it at a 45, so he's a little bit volatile for sure. It's not necessarily evident in his stat line. His walks are actually lower than Brian Abreu's were, and his strikeout minus walk was 20%. So he had a pretty good year. It was just the homers that were kind of giving him some issues there. And but for the brief time he was our closer, he was okay. He finished with 17 saves and only 6 blown. So happy to bring him back. Of course, we still have him for one more season at 3.5. So I think, I don't know that De La Paz is our leverage lefty anymore. He's more likely middle relief. And then, we'll try to see what's out there in terms of a leverage lefty. I don't know that Caleb Ferguson is going to return for us just because I'm weary that he's falling off. He lost a tick of velo most recently in September, and he's been awesome for us, historically. But I'm starting to see the BABIP come down, and these ratings aren't as strong as they used to be. So I'm kind of maybe we should get out in front of it and cut ties now, because he's entering he's almost a 10-year service time guy. And while he's only 31 and a half, I think the service time may accelerate his regression, I guess. So I'm a little bit weary of him. And then Carmen Mlodzinski was actually sick for us, 42 games, 82 innings, 3 ERA, super low FIP, no homers, not walking guys either. He was awesome, 1.2 WAR, which with his ratings, you wouldn't necessarily think that, he could perform so well. And sure, he's good against righties, but he is ARB eligible and he's wanting $5 million. And for a middle reliever, I think $5 million is too much, and I wouldn't want to start Mlodzinski. So I think it's likely we're done with him. We may look to trade him. He may have some trade value coming off his strong, back-to-back seasons. So I think that could be an option with him, but I think it's unlikely he returns for us at that salary. And then we have Braxton Ashcraft here, who has really kind of regressed, although he did kind of get his act together down the stretch. He brought the walks closer in line with his year-over-year average stats. We moved him to the bullpen full-time this year, and he's kind of just the same guy, but ended up as a positive WAR player for us barely. But he will likely return as he's just on the minimum still. So last guy, Jojo Romero, our trade deadline acquisition. I think this is someone we could look to bring back because lefty specialist, obviously something we've been trying to fit, different guys into that role, and we haven't found anyone who can do it. So I think JoJo will make sense for us, and he's not tremendously expensive. So I would pay him, a 2-year, $6 million deal and just call it done there. But that's sort of the team as a whole. Like I said, I think we're going to go into this season as sort of a retooling team. I don't know that we're going to make any big splashes, but, we may make some trades to kind of free up some space for younger guys to get more playing time, and I think that'll be fun to see play out. But, I forgot one guy. I meant to check on one more player, and guys, look at what has happened to poor Bubba Chandler. He has just fallen off the map. Everything is wrong here. We view him at a 40 grade now. Every scouting report on him is just negative. He's made no positive momentum, no positive change. He was once valued at the number 15 prospect in baseball, and that was just, a year and a half ago at this point. Early 2026, he was a top 20 prospect in baseball, and we have just totally fumbled his career at the goal line. Like, he was on the, like, he made a good debut in this 2025 stat line. He had a sub-3 ERA. And then the wheels have just fallen off. So, like, I don't know what we could have done wrong here. He just got, like, poor rolls on all of his attribute, like, progression, and just never recovered. And it's unlikely that he makes the major league team next year. Like, he's at least got 2 options, so we can keep him in AAA, I guess. But, like, this is just disgusting. Like, to see how far he's fallen, right? Like, because at one time we viewed him as like a 60 grade player. So I don't know. That's pretty tough on Bubba. So, like, all that to say, like, don't bet on him to, like, factor in our rotation, because the ship may have sailed. But next steps for this video, I appreciate your patience through the stat review. If you enjoy stats as much as me, make sure to like the video. But next we're going to go to the off season. I'm going to do some stuff off camera, like set up our arbitration stuff and our dev lab stuff. But I'm not going to simulate much further. We're just going to go one more day, and then I'm going to do a bunch of background work, and then I'll come back to review it with you guys. So give me a minute. Alrighty, guys, welcome back. It is a new day of recording for me, so I am a little bit fresher than I was on the stat recap, but I appreciate your patience sticking through that. I just wanted to update you all on all the news now that we've advanced one day. We're at the start of the off season, and I've sort of, as always, done some background work to get us set up for arbitration and the development lab. But we received a few messages, obviously, on the first day here, and Cedric Mullins decided he wants to be a part of this team, so he opted into the remainder of his deal. So we're going to have him for 2028 and 2029 at $16 million a season. And I'm not totally bummed out by this. I mean, obviously, 70 range in the outfield is tremendous. I don't think that he's like a middle of the order bat for us. He's probably more like a 7 or 8 hitter. But happy to bring him back, I guess. We are so lefty heavy that I'm still like weighing, if we maybe want to trade somebody or make moves later in the offseason. But at least we have some closure on him now, and we can kind of, just plan around it. But he decided to come back. We also received a new budget, and it's a higher starting point than we were at last season. So we're starting at 196, and previously we were at 186. So this is a $10 million bump year over year for us, which obviously we'll try to put to good use here. And we also received some new goals. So, he was happy with our record, our owner was, and attendance is looking great. But as far as our, fan interest, it's still lagging, and we can improve in our road games. So we got a set of new goals here. We can actually pop over here to see 500 baseball again. He wants us to play that, and he wants us to improve our team batting average this season. Paul Skeens is still here, and I'm seeing now that I unfortunately can't discuss this goal anymore, so we're definitely going to fail it by trading him away in this episode. But he also wants us to acquire a Gold Glove winner and increase attendance. We're pretty close on this, but that's going to drop as well, obviously, after we trade Skeens. So long term, we now have an ambitious goal of reaching the World Series by 2032. So definitely a bit of runway there, like 4 years, 2028, it's not going to be unattainable for us, but I'm a little scared of that one, but it's just an average priority. But if we look at all of the, while we're here in the owner, if we go to finances, we're already dipping into the negative, and this is just like factoring in arbitration estimates of all our players. So like, were we to bring everyone back, including like Skeens, we would have to shed salary somewhere else to be able to afford that. So we're not really in a position to bring him back. So plain and simple, we're going to investigate trades a little bit later. But one more piece of news in the mailbox that we got was a new prospect list. So 3 new draftees jump Danny Jimenez, and Danny Jimenez falls to 4 for us here, and then Dan Beebe comes in at 8 for us. So 2 top 10 prospects still. We're missing Connor Griffin in this list, but if we go to the full minor league systems, we're still first in the MLB. So, we got Jimenez, Beebe, Griffin is now 23rd, and then 2 of our high school pitchers we just drafted, Hiles and Malaguti, also come in the top 100 at 31 and 62. So on the whole, the system is pretty strong right now. We really loaded up on the high school players this year, and Alex Harrington is still in the top 100 as well. There's a bunch more. Harry Hallwell, another high school arm we got, and a couple more guys just on the outside looking in. You got Paul Waldron there, our catching prospect that we like, and Phil Goodall, our second-round pick, did not crack the top, prospects, but he's still listed here as well. So a lot in the system. We sort of reloaded the system, so that's fun and good to see. But let's move into arbitration. So obviously, this is just going to kind of mirror everything we talked about in the stat review. So we've offered deals to Burrows, Jones, Oviedo, Rodriguez, Horwitz, Gonzalez, and Peguero. And we've non-tendered Majinski because he wants way too much money. I'm not paying $5 million for him. And then Skeens as well because we're looking to trade him. So we're not offering either of those guys. Jared Jones, we did offer a longer-term deal. We offered him a 5-year contract extension that will take him through his age 30 season, so he can hit the free agency market again at age 30, 31 and get paid. But I wanted to give him some security, and we're going to kind of build around him as our ace for the time being. So a 5-year deal only buys out 2 of his arbitration years. It's not an egregious, I'm not abusing his willingness to sign. I think it's a fair deal for both sides. And it's really not all that expensive for us. So, I think at the top end in that very final year, he's getting paid like close to $20 million, which I think is totally fine for his skill set. So he should sign that, hopefully. We're not going to bring back Caleb Ferguson. I'm just a little weary that he's sort of falling off, as he approaches 10 years of MLB service time. And we kind of saw that in the scouting down the stretch, losing a tick. I just am a little hesitant. So we're gonna pause there. I'm not gonna. Maybe we re-sign him later, but I'm just not gonna do it right now. And then, obviously, we can't bring back Paredes. He's way too expensive. And we did decide to offer a 2-year contract to Jojo Romero, just because he's still just a 7-year vet, and we actually think he's improving in our most recent scouting reports. So we offered him a very modest 2-year deal. I think less than $5.5 million. So he will hopefully sign that. And then a bunch of just minor league extensions here that we won't touch on. But that's sort of the plan for now. I think we'll look into trading Skeens in just a sec. I'm going to pause the recording and kind of, go over the options. But I had to kind of sleep on it previously. I was thinking about recording the episode last night, and then I was like, I just need to go with a clear head the following day. So we are still kind of weighing what to do there, but I do have a couple of options I'm looking at. In terms of Dev Lab, we'll go through this quick, just because we kind of talked about a lot of this previously, but our 2 guys here at the top, O'Neal Cruz and Termar, were worried that maybe they're going to become fragile to us soon. They are not there yet, but we're just trying to preempt it by getting them on strength and conditioning programs to hopefully, mitigate any long-term injury concerns, because we're tied to them for the next 4 to 5 seasons, I think. Just team control with Termar, and then O'Neal, obviously he just signed a deal last offseason with us. And similar vein, Nate Snead, we're not giving up on him because, he's a 5-pitch guy who is a former second-round pick that has turned fragile just because he really went through it last season. Here, he suffered a torn labrum at the end of his first season, and then 2 shoulder injuries last year. I kind of want to get him back on track. I still believe in the talent and the stuff. I'm not willing to give up on him just yet, so I'm giving him a strength and conditioning program as well. And then we kind of have like just a ton of prospects here in the middle. But before we dive into those, we're also doing Jared Jones. I figure like since we're going to sign him for the next 5 seasons, we should invest in his development. And we think there's a little bit of untapped control. So if we can push this from average to above average, I think he's going to be just all the more dominant for us down the line. So I think it makes sense to give him some dev lab love. But the exciting like prospects that we're putting in here, obviously Dan Beebe is our most recent number 1 pick. And I look at his skill set as it currently sits like in relation to the MLB. And I think there's room to improve the stuff, right? Like all these secondary pitches are kind of just average or well below with the changeup. So I think like hindsight, like taking all the things we learned from the Bubba Chandler failure, I think looking back, maybe he did not have his pitches in a good spot to be playing at the majors quite yet. So we're going to go secondary pitch improvement here to hopefully either boost one of these to average or bring that changeup along to where it can be close to average. So that's sort of the plan there. Connor Griffin, we're going with plate discipline because in the most recent scouting report, his eye fell from 50 to 45, and I want to build that back up. I think I'm fine with him striking out as long as he's like walking and hitting extra base hits. So like we're gonna have to sacrifice something here. I think the strikeout thing may just be like beyond saving, but as long as he's playing like great defense and hitting homers and walking, like he's gonna be a really valuable player. So I'm trying to build up the eye a bit, and it's a easy program or medium difficulty program, which is a little easier to execute on compared to like 2-strike approach or contact. So that's the plan with him. Alex Harrington, we're doing gap power because again, like, since we changed scouts, AJ Preller has really not seen him the same as like our previous scout did, but at one point we viewed his gap power to be like 70 grade. And I'm thinking about his profile long term where he's like glove first, like contact, and the slug needs to come from somewhere, and it needs to come from extra base hits. So he's never really going to hit for power, and I'm fine accepting that. But if we can get the gap power up to an above average level, I think it's just going to make him all the more valuable. So we're going to do that with him. Another, pretty easy program. And then Quentin Young, some of you may hate this, but I'm still not giving up on our first overall pick in the series. Similar to Connor Griffin, I guess, we're training up his eye as well to try to get him into like a, walk, homer, strikeout, like 3 true outcome kind of guy. So we'll just see. We'll see what ends up happening with him. He's still so young. He's not even 21. So hopefully he can, see success here. He's 0 for 2 so far in Dev Lab programs, but third time's the charm, right? And then finally here we have Omar Alfonso, who we're trying to tap into some more bat speed because we think there's some more power in the tank with him. And as it stands right now, he's just kind of like an average guy all the way around, an average bat. But if he can turn into like a plus power catcher, that's like a totally different ball game for us, where like he becomes so much more valuable if he's slugging out 20 plus homers a season from behind the dish. So if we can get a good result with this, like he could be a real X factor for us, I think, moving forward. And it's a challenging program, so we'll see what ends up happening with him. But yeah, that's sort of the plan there. The last guy that we have in here, I think this is going to change after we trade Paul Skeens, but for the time being, it's Tyler August, and we're trying to get his control back up. It recently fell from a 45 down to a 40, so we're trying to recover some of the lost ground we have there. And, similar to Nate Snead, he's a second-round pick. Like, we're not ready to give up on him just yet. He's pretty new to, pro baseball with a good work ethic and, intangibles. So I think the control would benefit him if we end up keeping him here. I don't know. I need to revisit. I think why I say that he's maybe not locked in yet is like depending on who we bring back in the Paul Skeens return, maybe we slide one of those players in here to get some work as well. So those are sort of like some updates that we've made, all the news that has come across on the first day of the off season. I think now on my list I would like to do the Paul Skeens trade now. I think we just need to get back into the positive here on the books, and we'll just have to deal with all the negative consequences that come out of this. So it's going to be tough, but I'm going to go off camera and field a couple of trades, and then I'll review the possibilities with you together on camera, and then pick the one I like best, and then we'll trade Paul Skeens and pray for mercy. So I'll be right back. Okay, you guys, we are here. It is the day we have been building toward all sim. It's going to be the time we trade Paul Skeens away, who is, potentially about to win his second Cy Young Award in just a couple of weeks here in game time. Our most popular player, perennial all-star. I think his time in Pittsburgh has come to a close. We just can no longer afford him, and his, $50 million a year expected contract. So I've done quite a bit of, trade investigation off camera, and I've landed on 3 possible deals that we are considering, and one of which I think I'm going to accept at the end of this, but I'll, run you through all of the options, and you can kind of give me feedback in the comments on what you would have done in my shoes. So I went through all of these, teams in the initiate trade menu who are, high budget teams with a win now focus, and was able to find a couple of, willing partners in the trade. So like what I was looking for, because there are some teams here that are listed as win now, but they just don't have the available budget space to sign Skeens long term. He's looking for a $50 million a year deal after his arbitration is up, and like Kansas City can't really afford that. Arizona can't really afford that, even though they have money now. Like they're not built with these huge budgets in mind, so that eliminated a lot of teams just straight off the bat. And then there were other teams here who, are, very wealthy franchises, like even San Francisco, who are now rebuilding. So like their available money is not quite there, and they're rebuilding, so they didn't really make sense as a partner. And a couple of teams like Philly even too, like it was hard to get them to throw together a really enticing package because their focus is neutral at the moment. Really with these win now teams, they're more willing to give up assets in return for Skeens, and I was able to get, stronger packages that I was happy to do. Other teams that were eliminated, the Yankees, just because their prospect pool is like very weak. Like we would just be getting a bunch of like 50 grade guys from them, and I don't love that, obviously, so that sort of removed them from contention. And same with like Toronto as well. They definitely have a little bit more here, but I didn't love what I was able to find with them, and a lot of their best guys are newly acquired players that are untradeable. So the teams that we ended up landing on, we have 3 pending deals here, and the teams are Boston, Texas, and New York. So we'll do Boston first. I had to make sure not to accidentally accept any of these deals. But Boston, you can see they have a huge budget surplus, and they would be willing to give up these 3 guys in exchange. And I look at their major league team. This is not the deal I'm going to end up accepting, because they are like paying a ton of pitchers. They have Kyle Harrison still, Sonny Gray, Crochet, Matt Boyd, and Brian Bayo. And like Boyd is still on a long-term deal. Crochet is still on the deal he signed in real life, and Sonny Gray is also on a multi-year deal as well. So they're kind of like full at pitching. I mean, you would definitely say like you could swap out Brian Bayo, but he's been extended, so it's like They kind of just don't. When I look at their rotation, it doesn't really make sense for them. And Kyle Harrison would be the odd man out, but also he's like a cost-effective asset for them. So they're kind of not that they couldn't fit Paul Skeens into this, obviously, but it doesn't really make the most sense on paper. But they would be willing to give up this guy Tanner Franklin, who's the number 36 prospect in all of baseball. He's a right-handed pitcher out of Kennesaw State, former fourth-round pick, but we really like his pitch mix and his potential with control and the stuff upside. We would also get Lorenzo Laurel, who's a really tooled out outfielder, former first-round pick in the 2026 draft. He's still pretty raw. He, only one season of experience, but long term he could be really dangerous. And then they would also throw in Franklin Arias, who is like MLB ready at the moment. Has never debuted yet, but just like a tremendous glove on the dirt. And at one point we viewed him with really high contact upside. So this is one possibility I considered, but again, I don't think it makes the absolute most sense. They also need to start, They need to start paying their position players. Like, they still have Joey Bart, funnily enough, who we traded them in the first season, but they need to pay guys like Campbell, Meyer. They've already paid Rafaela, but you got the password in the outfield, Roman Anthony, Wilyer Abreu. Like, they're gonna start feeling the financial crunch here soon. So I don't think this makes a ton of sense. The other deal that I heavily considered, and this was actually a deal that we got accepted, was with Texas. And they could, from an active roster perspective for them, they could definitely use a new ace starter. They have DeGrom still, who is our fragile king, but he's coming to the end of his time there, and they need a new guy to build around. They have Kumar and a couple of other guys here, James Hicks and Chris Bassett. But I don't think the package they're willing to give is quite as enticing, at least from like an OSA prospect perspective. The key piece in our mind would be Brett Renfroe, who was a second-round pick in 2026, who we view like very highly, 65 grade potential, but he's not currently ranked by OSA, so that's a little confusing. Only a 3-pitch guy, but we think everything will be really good. The thing that sort of gives me pause here is that we see him a lot differently than OSA. Once I toggle here to OSA, you can see he's down to a 40. So it's like, who's correct? Who do you believe? So it's a little bit risky, I think, building the package around Renfroe, and he's only ever played at the A-ball level. He looks tremendous from our scouts' perspective, but I think he's a little bit risky, obviously. And then we were also able to get PJ Mutsaridis, who is actually their first-round pick. So we get both of their first 2 picks in the most recent, last year's 2026 draft. And similar to Franklin Arias, he's just like really good on the dirt. I think could play like third, short, or second, and just be a really solid, positive WAR player for us. So they would be willing to throw him in, and then Edwin Goodwin as well, just like a total wild card, 17-year-old DSL player with a decent personality and a bunch of good tools. So, I don't love this package either. I mean, obviously, if Renfroe was a sure thing, like, it would be amazing, but I just hesitate with that because he's not ranked by OSA, so I think there may be a little bit of disconnect there in what we see and what's actually real. So I've sort of walked this one back as well. I also wanted this Mark Church guy from them really badly, but they just refused to give him up because he is like, still on league minimum. He could potentially even start with 35 stamina, and he just looks tremendous, but they were unwilling to move off of him. If I added him to the deal, I couldn't get any of these 3 guys. So, not like this is a good package, but I don't think it's our best package. The one that I think I'm going to do is with the Mets. And I know you guys are going to like, oh, God, the Mets. But they are just willing to give us so much in exchange here. David Stearns is, willing to give up the farm to a degree, but it's also like not. Like their farm system is so deep that we're not even getting their best guys. They have a couple of like really good. They're unwilling to trade this guy, Boston Barrow, who is currently a 50 grade with 70 potential upside. So they're like, he's a definite no-go. They're penciling him in to be on their infield next season. And this guy too, Will Gasparino, is also pretty intriguing, but they're unwilling to move off of him with a good personality. So we did get quite a bit though. We got their, one of their top tier prospects, Carson Bench, who's never debuted, but I think it could be his time with us. This is sort of the key asset in the package. That's like the most major league ready. Had a good season in AAA the last 2 years, and I think we would look to carry him on the major league roster going into this season as like a backup outfielder, first baseman. So I like him. He's a lefty bat again, so another lefty, but I think, as a backup, that's fine. We are also able to get Elian Pena, who was like a big ticket IFA signing in real life, I believe. And he's got a really great personality. He's still super young. He's only 20 years old. He is a ground ball hitter, but we hope we can turn that around. And he's played he got a taste of high A last season, and he did pretty well there. So kind of a more long-term upside play with him. We're also able to get Jonathan Santucci, who is almost 25, so he's pretty far along. He's Rule 5 eligible, so we'll need to purchase his contract. But I like the idea of bringing him in as a lefty. At one point we viewed his control at a 45, so I'm hoping maybe that comes back a bit, but he's a former second round pick in 2024 out of Duke, so I think he's interesting to just kind of throw in here as a potential factor for us, maybe not this year but further down the line. And OSA still views his potential at a 60 grade and control and stuff much higher than we do. So I think he's an interesting wild card, and we're searching for like the lefty starter that we have like dreamed of. Maybe he's the guy, who knows. But as a throw-in, I don't mind it. And then they're also willing to move off Mark Vientos, who I mentioned Boston Barrow. They're trying to fit him in somewhere, and I think this like opens up a slot where they move off of Vientos, who has just been sort of like an average player ever since his like really hot 2024 in real life. He has sort of had like middling playing time with the Mets, like just kind of average. And while I don't think he's like special in any way, I would be willing to bring him on because he still has 2 years of team control and he's not tremendously expensive. So as like a lefty masher for sure, I think he fits in, and we're kind of in need of right-handed bats in our starting lineup. So I think we can fit him in somewhere. So this is going to be the trade that I want to make. It's definitely quite the package, two very enticing prospects, one like pretty enticing prospect, and then a major league ready like guy right now. So I know it's a lot, but I feel good about it. If we go to the prospect pipeline and we look at their team specifically, you can see Benj is their number 3 prospect, just outside the top 100 at 101. And then, Santucci is their 13th prospect, and Elian Pena is their 17th best prospect. So 3 top 20 prospects, 1 top 3 prospect. I think this is somewhat grounded in reality. I think they would, not mind doing this. I tried to get Nolan McLean from them as well, and they were just totally unwilling to move off of him. He has, looked really good at the AAA level for several seasons now. They're just unwilling to move off of him. So I couldn't get him in there, even though I tried. But all that to say, I don't think it's too egregious of a package, and they can hopefully bring back Skeens on like a long-term deal. It does suck that we're trading him within the NL, but it also kind of makes it a little more interesting. So I think we're going to look to execute this trade right now. And when I was alluding to with the player dev, I think we're going to get Carson Bench in there and try to get a bat speed program to get his power up to above average. I think we're going to try to do that instead of Tyler August. So let's go ahead and complete this. This is really scary to click. But Paul Skeens is going to be headed to Queens as the new ace of the New York Mets. So our fan interest, before I click, let's do some damage control here. Our fan interest is currently 65. And our budget is minus 1.5. So let's do this. This is really scary. But I do think Carson Bench long-term could be our first baseman of like the future as well. Like I don't, necessarily want to pencil him into just an outfielder role. Like should we move on from Spencer Horwitz down the line? Like, he could slide into first base and be good for us. But anyway, I'm just beating around the bush. I'm scared to click the button. Let's go ahead and complete the deal. The fans are shocked that we did not keep Paul Skeens on the team. Fan interest crashed. Huge blockbuster deal. Skeens goes to New York. He looks disgusting in the uniform. But we had to do it, you guys. Let's check in. We lose 14 points of fan interest. Yikes. But we have huge money available to us. We can make some changes to our team here. So this is pretty gut-wrenching, I guess, if you're a Pirates fan to see this in real life. But we've committed to retooling the team this season. I think we missed our window of really competing in that final stretch run down like run down the stretch last season. So we do need to sort of reset, and I am going to swap in Carson Bench as the final dev lab player there with the power program. But I think I'm going to cut the episode here, you guys. Sorry we didn't get quite as far into the offseason as I would have liked, but the stat review went long, and we had to look at the trades and figure out what we were doing there. So I'm going to go off camera now and continue to set some stuff up. But we'll leave it here. Curious your thoughts on our, trade return for Paul Skeens. Did we do a good job, or did we, screw everything up? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see what you say. But next episode, we'll look to continue moving through the early stages of the off season and maybe play a little further into we'll obviously go past the awards, and then we'll get to actual open free agency where everyone hits the market, and we can kind of figure out what we're going to do moving forward into 2028. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support on these videos, and stay tuned because I'll be back with a new episode very soon.